Hello and welcome to the first episode of Town Talk. I'm your host, Connor Lynch, and for our inaugural episode, we wanted to bring in two of the most important decision makers for the town of Westwood. Some people may not know who they are, but they work behind the scenes and in front of the cameras to make sure that our community is as great as it can be. It's my honor to welcome State Senator Mike Rush and State Representative Paul McMurtry. So, guys, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us.
I want to jump right in with our first question, which will go to you, Representative. So, first of all, congratulations on making 10 years in the legislature.
Thank you.
So, I want to ask, what is it like to say that you have an experience of a decade underneath your belt? What kind of things have you done that you can say that you're particularly proud of, or things that you've done over the past 10 years that you look back and say, wow, really glad that I did that?
Well, again, I appreciate it, and thanks for the opportunity to be here, Connor. We, both Senator Rush and I, have an amazing partnership and friendship and relationship working together. And for me, as I reflect over the past 10 years, time flies. It's been incredible to think that 10 years has gone by that quickly. But I'm proud of so many different initiatives that we've taken up with statewide legislation that becomes a model for our nation, but most specifically some of the local issues and most the constituent services. An opportunity through the venue of government to help people in need, whether it's locally with some local issues or state issues or even federal issues. The partnership that we have is exemplified not only with our local town officials but with our federal partners. So for me, my pride and pleasure over the last decade comes from the constituent services and constituent priorities.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about the local stuff in a second, but I wanted to focus more on the work that you guys have been doing currently. So you sit as the chairperson of the Personnel and Administration Committee.
I do.
I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about that work. That kind of sounds like a mouthful. Maybe some people might not know what exactly the kind of work you do with that is.
Sure, I appreciate that. I'm now in my second term of serving as chair of Personnel Administration, and one of the major aspects of that is overseeing the intern program. We do the policies and procedures of the House, members of the House, ethics training, and then the intern program. And again, for me, the intern program is a unique opportunity for young people to come into the State House and to experience firsthand public service in the role that both Senator Rush and I play and our colleagues in the legislature, and perhaps how they can be a part of it or not. So every summer, upwards of 200 to 300 college and high school kids, including many from Westwood, come in and spend the summer in our offices and learning the role that legislators play in the Commonwealth.
And I'm assuming that you guys get a lot of like growth. People who join with that kind of intern program will go on to do more things.
It's true. In fact, lots of interns turn into job opportunities. Some of those job opportunities turn into running for rep or senator. So there's been many stories like that through the decades of interns who have been exposed to the building and got the bug of public service and then have gone on to serve as elected state reps and senators.
Excellent.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Now to you.
And I was an intern, so.
There you go.
There's an example.
Did you go through that? That
many
program
years
as well?
ago. So the program that Representative McMurtry is in charge of is hugely successful, and I believe they do the survey at the end of the year, and it's like in the high 90s of satisfaction from students all across the entire Commonwealth who come, and he does an outstanding job with that. It's a great program, so
That's
we
awesome.
all benefit from it.
I'm glad to hear that there's a success story that we got right in front of us.
Sitting right next to me.
So, Senator Rush, you sit as the chairperson of the Veterans and Federal Affairs Committee.
That's correct.
You yourself are also a veteran. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, number one, how that work has gone, how you feel that you've done as the chairperson of that committee, and then also how you being a veteran has kind of helped amplify that a little bit more, kind of let you get in more touch and more contact with our veterans.
Sure. I'm very honored to serve as the chairman of the Committee on Veterans Affairs. Massachusetts is home to just shy of 400,000 veterans and their families. And I'm proud to let you know that since I've been in the Senate in 2010, that working with Representative McMurtry and our colleagues both in the Senate and the House, we have passed 3 major pieces of legislation to benefit veterans, known as the Valor Act 1, the Valor Act 2, and the Veterans Home Act. And with the passage of these 3 pieces of legislation, Massachusetts is currently the #1 state out of all 50 states in providing benefits to our veterans and their families. So people are generally surprised to know that we are #1 of all 50 states in the benefits that we provide. So I've been happy to be the chairman, working together with my colleagues to get this legislation. It has been bipartisan. It has been focused on the veteran. Governor Patrick signed 2 of the pieces of legislation. Governor Baker has signed 1 of them. And it comes because of great collaboration amongst legislators. So it's been great to work together to get this legislation passed. It's very unique. I think if you look at some of the veterans legislation, because the legislature is not full of veterans, so it's a great, I guess, experiment in the idea of how good government and good democracy works. The citizens of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have demanded that their elected officials, Representative McMurtry, myself, and our 198 colleagues, give good benefits to our veterans who they believe deserve it. And in that tradition, we have acted on what they wanted, and we have produced good legislation. So it's really the epitome of a good legislative process, whereas the citizens have demanded something, we have listened, and we have produced, and because of it, the veterans and their families of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts are #1 out of all 50 states. So it's been a great experience.
I had no clue that we were #1. That's incredible.
It really,
Yeah.
People are very...
He's being extremely modest. Senator Rush has been an instrumental leader in the process through the years.
That's great. Awesome. Well, you guys touched on this a little bit on each of your answers, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the work that you guys do together, because I feel like a lot of work you might assume you guys do separately, but could you give us an example of some of the work that you guys do that maybe you wouldn't be able to do on your own, that you guys collaborate together?
Sure. I think collaboration is the most important thing that legislators can do. And Representative McMurtry and I talk pretty much daily. Our staffs interact daily to make sure that we're providing the very best services for the citizens of the town of Westwood. So we are in contact also with your outstanding elected officials here in town, outstanding Board of Selectmen. You've got a wonderful town manager, to make sure that we're all communicating, unless the citizens are the benefit of that. So I've been very, very fortunate. Representative McMurtry has done a phenomenal job articulating the needs of the people of Westwood each and every day. And I've been able to be his partner in the Senate, because my district is 4 times as big. But he has been the heart and soul of Westwood every step of the way. And I've been fortunate enough to be to be able to work in the Senate, to partner up, to work with the town of Westwood's municipal elected officials, be their partners, and to produce and get things done, so that the quality of life here in Westwood is really second to none. That's our job. So, and been a great experience.
And I will just add, Connor, that I touched upon it in the beginning. I had the opportunity to serve with Senator Rush in the House prior to him getting elected into the Senate. And I know from many of our colleagues in the districts that they represent, they don't afford the relationship that both Senator Rush and I have. I consider him a friend. I think we're very fortunate for the people that we represent, and both for me and Dedham and Westwood, to have the partnership. Is the legislative process, as the Senator mentioned, the cooperation and collaboration. The legislative process takes both time in the House and time in the Senate. So working together rather than against one another always has a better outcome. And there's many of our colleagues that we could point across the state that just don't have that mutual respect, that friendship, and that appreciation for the work that each do. And I know when Senator Rush, again back on constituent services, both he and I, when there's a constituent matter that comes before us, we can both go in together, whether it's before a state agency or with our federal partners, to attack this collaboratively on behalf of the individuals who need assistance. So it's been a unique pleasure.
Great experience. It's been terrific.
Absolutely. And I like that I can go onto social media. I can jump onto like your Twitter account
Yeah.
or your Facebook account, and I can see you guys doing different things like groundbreakings and stuff like that. Or you know, we have our Council on Aging here, and I know you guys do a lot of events there as well. It's really nice to be able to see that kind of like community outreach.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, you know, I try to look onto other constituents and other senators and representatives, and I just don't see that same kind of level from you guys. So it's really great to see.
I think both of us, if I may, just feel a sense of obligation and duty to the people that we represent here in the town of Westwood. There's an expectation from the citizens, whether or not they support our decisions. We know everyone has a difference of opinion, but we do our best to make sure that the best interest of the residents are put forward, and that means attending some of the Council on Aging and community events and the groundbreaking. So, and as the senator said, not only do we have conversations with one another almost daily, our staffs interact almost hourly.
Yeah.
And it's, as the representative mentioned, it's really key critical for us to do the best job that we possibly can, to be in the community, to be constantly interacting with individuals that we represent, so that there's no disconnect between an outstanding community and a state house that is, 10, 12 miles away.
Yeah.
So it affords us this great opportunity to be on the ground, listening to folks and getting their feedback, their input, and I believe it makes us better public servants because of it. So,
Absolutely. So I wanted to jump just before we get into more of the local town politics. Is there anything that you guys feel that's facing legislation or something in the House or anything like that that maybe people don't know about? People might not know that this is an important thing coming up that maybe you guys have a better insight on.
Well, first of all, Connor, I have to commend you on pointing out you referenced the House. No, there's similar topics. Again, our peers in leadership, the Speaker of the House, Speaker DeLeo, and the Senate President Rosenberg, they meet with Governor Baker weekly as well, if not more often than weekly. So just because of that conversation and that having that exchange of dialogue and the communication, there's a couple things that I know is a constant topic of conversation. It's the opioid crisis that we face, not only in our communities, but in the Commonwealth, but across the country. And then criminal justice reform is coming up. So in a way, some of those go hand in hand. We want to remove some of the stigma with the opioid addiction. And it's fascinating to me, as Senator Rush just mentioned, about us being involved in the community and having these conversations. There's lots of community groups, organizations, and that meet weekly to discuss this opioid crisis. And with the passage of recreational marijuana now, there's a more heightened awareness. Massachusetts has been a leader with some opioid legislation, where Governor Baker now heads the National Task Force. 3 or 4 pieces of legislation that we took up in partnership with the administration came from conversations in our communities with legislators in cooperation with the administration, the Baker-Polito administration, have now been adopted at 46 states across the country. So when people say, government's too big and you can't affect change, you certainly can. And that's a direct example how you can go back to the community meeting that took place in a conference room like you have here in the studio, where someone expressed some personal, issues and stories and relationships that then rolled into legislation that now is being adopted by 46 states across the country. So it's real fascinating to even witness to witness that, to see that and be a part of it.
Absolutely.
sure, and I think in terms of something that maybe can appear to be frustrating at times is, the legislature is designed to move slow. It can be frustrating to people we represent who have issues that they care deeply about. But there are 200 of us from all corners of the entire state of Massachusetts, representing 6 million people. And it's important that everybody's voice is heard, and that's how the system works. So this session, we have just shy of 6,000 bills have been filed. Each and every one of those bills will get a hearing. Any person can come and testify for or against, either in person, send an email, send a letter, contact us. But every bill gets a hearing, and as it moves through what is a slow and arduous process, some folks do get frustrated with it. But what may be great for here in Westwood doesn't always necessarily resonate in all corners of the state. So Representative McMurtry and I are two members of a 200-member legislature, and every single member, all of our colleagues, do get their say on legislation. So it can be slow, and sometimes people get frustrated. But it's our job to keep pushing and pushing the legislation and to listen and then take those concerns through the legislative process to get these bills to the governor's desk.
Yeah, I had no clue it was 6,000. That's daunting, to say the least. Wow, that puts it into perspective too.
Sure.
So talking a little bit more focused on Westwood. So recently the town has gone through a bunch of different facelifts, I want to call them. So we have our Islington Center, which got a complete remodeling, new stores, new storefronts, new traffic patterns and things like that. Just last week we had our hose uncoupling for our fire station, which I believe you attended as well.
Yeah.
And then in the next couple of weeks, we're also going to have our police station opening up. So a lot of new things that are happening in Westwood, a lot of new initiatives and things like that. What kind of role do you guys play in the formation of that? How does that kind of come about with your guys' help? And how do you see that benefiting the community going forward?
Well, I think for us, it's to be available and accessible to the local town officials. As Senator Rush indicated, we have a great working relationship with the selectmen, with the town manager, and the entire town hall staff. There's plenty of grant opportunities through the fire department and the police department that we're able to help facilitate on behalf of the town. And but just being aware of the process so that if anything that's state related or has state implications, Senator Rush and I can jump to action and help resolve issues that might have arise through these construction processes. And how is it good for the community? I mean, Westwood, University Station, and as you referenced, Islington, the complete renaissance that's taken place there. I've attended some of those community meetings where the public had some input, and it's almost, it was a clean slate where private developers working with the municipal partners can come up with something that really delivers, development that not only the town but the neighborhood can be proud of. So it's exciting to be a part of that. It's exciting to experience it when it's done right, and I think that's what you're seeing not only with the municipal buildings, the police and fire, but also with the redevelopment of Islington.
Absolutely.
So.
No, it's been one thing about the town of Westwood is it's clear there is tremendous forward thinking that has been going on for a very long time in terms of the planning and then the outcome, and we're seeing all this wonderful forward thinking today, as you referenced in your comments. And the job of Representative McMurtry and myself is to be available, to be accessible, and to be ready, willing, and able at any time to step in to work with the decision makers here in town, and then be that link between this municipality, the town of Westwood, and our state government and our state agencies to make sure that they are being receptive, they are being responsive, and that there are tremendous opportunities coming back here to this town. And really, when you look, Westwood is a model to other municipalities because of their forward thinking, and it's very present here today. Representative McMurtry mentioned some of the development going on, and this just didn't happen. It went through a process, and people's voices were heard here in town, and the outcome is you have tremendous success. So it's, as the representative mentioned, it's great to be part of it, and great to see a thriving town with people, the satisfaction when I talk to citizens here in Westwood, people love this town. There's a real town pride, and the sense I'm getting, and I believe the rep would share this, is that people think, so many good things are going on and the town is moving in just such a good direction.
Yeah,
so it's great to be part of that.
Again, I would just add that that's why it's such a privilege to represent such a great community. The quality of life is almost uncomparable to many of the cities and towns in the Commonwealth. So I feel extremely fortunate, again, not only to be working with Senator Rush, but to represent the town of Westwood in the legislature and on Beacon Hill, only because of the quality of life that is the envy, as Senator Rush indicated, of many other communities in the Commonwealth.
Yeah, absolutely. So. My aunt lives actually in Westwood, so I've been here since I was a kid, and I can just tell like it's a different type of community than most of the other ones that surround it. Of Dedham and Milton, everything surrounding it. It's It's pretty unique.
Well, Dedham might say it's a tie, Connor, so
Right.
I'm biased, but
I had to get a little dig in
that's
there.
all right. So,
No, the one thing, and it seems to be, so I'm fortunate, I represent, in addition to Westwood and Dedham, which we both overlap in, I represent the towns in, Norwood, half of Needham and Dover. And one thing you do see comparatively throughout Norfolk County is this idea of long-term planning, long-term saving, long-term roadmaps for success. And you see it on the school committees, you see it on the boards of selectmen, the local boards, Park and Rec. So there's a real invest, and I see it in all the towns I represent, that people care about the quality of life, as a representative mentioned, and they want to make sure that it is truly second to none. It's great to see it because people are involved on a local level where they are making huge changes that affect their long-term well-being and that of their neighbors and families and the entire community. So it's really something unique.
Yeah, and you touched a little bit about that as well. And recently the MBTA finally approved a contract to fix the East Street Bridge, which had a very low clearance. It had a very narrow sidewalk. It was a nightmare. As a kid, even I was afraid of driving underneath that. So, $11 million project. I was wondering if you guys had any idea about, maybe a timeline about what that was going to be like in terms of fixing that, or any involvement that you guys have with that. Just touching a little bit upon that.
sure, I'll start. And then the project has been on our priority list for many, many years, including, again, here's another example of conversations with local officials and the priority of theirs that we share with the state agencies. Through the years, Senator Rush and I have held many meetings with the MBTA to discuss the hazards. Obviously, the East Street Bridge has been identified as one of the most hazardous in the Commonwealth. So we're equally excited for this, that there's going to be, finally a fix to this that will be acceptable to the neighborhood, acceptable to the town, and then allow for this public transportation mode to continue to grow as Massachusetts invests more in public transportation. So it's a feat that's been a long time coming. I think we'll start to see some action. I know a bid just recently went out. You start to see some action and results in 2018. And then both Senator Rush and I will continue to advocate on behalf of the town with those state agencies and making sure that this is a priority. And then the public safety of the community and anyone who passes through is prioritized to make sure that people are safe, including the many young drivers who actually, everyone talks about that, the fear of going on driver's ed into that bridge. So
yeah, my little cousin just started driving, and he said he was afraid to even go anywhere near it.
We've heard hundreds of stories, if not more. So, so that hopefully will be coming to an end, again, with community involvement, with the town keeping as a priority, with both Senator Rush and I working with the appropriate state agencies to make sure that it remains a priority.
Absolutely. And then one final thing was that I want to say it was back in July, we were approved for Westwood the Green Energies grant, which was a $183,000 grant. It was actually sent out to 72 different municipalities all across. I was wondering if you guys had any idea about what this grant means for Westwood. What changes can Westwood's residents see that this grant is going to improve the community upon, or anything like that?
Sure. One of the things we're trying to do, not only across the whole Commonwealth, is to have these types of initiatives to get people kind of thinking, to get municipalities involved, think of the bigger picture. Again, we've talked a lot today about local quality of life issues, but Representative and I are also dealing with all these state agencies and trying to make sure that there's funding available so that communities have an opportunity to partake in education, natural resources, and really make sure that we're getting this message out, the importance of making sure that our environment is in the very best stage that it can be for every community across the state. And one of the great things we get to do is work with all the state agencies who come out with different initiatives. And it's great because when the towns apply, and often the representative and I will advocate, and we love seeing nothing more than when municipalities who want to be part of a larger picture and solve a bigger problem get involved and a grant is awarded. And that focus, that educational component, really is second to none. So
And again, Connor, another example of, first of all, congratulations to the town of Westwood and the municipal leaders in the Commonwealth. They recognize that Westwood is a leader in conservation and renewable energy. So what that will inevitably do is save some taxpayer money and perhaps allow the town to put local funds into other projects of importance. So it does have a real impact, and again, it would not be possible without the forward thinking and the involvement of the local community, and it's one of hopefully many that we'll see in the future.
Absolutely. So final question for today. We've talked about a lot of different topics and things like that, but I want to give you guys the floor. If there's anything that we didn't talk about today that you want constituents to know, citizens to know, whether it be through Westwood or any of the other communities that you cover, what's one thing that, you got a camera in front of you guys, what's one thing you want to let people know about?
Well, I was just concerned that in the beginning when you were congratulating me on the 10 years, I didn't want you to think it was over. I hope there's another 10 years to be able to work with Senator Rush and continue to, represent the people of Westwood and keep, their priorities, their families' priorities, our shared priorities. As Senator Rush indicated, there's a lot of different opinions. We have differences amongst our colleagues, but what we strive to do each and every day when we're in the State House is try to represent the majority of the citizens of Westwood and try to improve their quality of life, give them, give the vast majority the attention and priority and the service that they've come to expect from the partnership that both Senator Rush and I have working together. So I'm hopeful. 2018 is an election year. I'm hopeful since I have the camera that we both have the opportunity to continue to serve. And again, don't take it for granted. Each and every year there's an election and we get the affirmation of the citizens to say, yep, we like what you're doing. We want you to continue that. And I'm hoping that that's what we have an opportunity to continue to do for many years in the future.
Absolutely.
Sure. Thank you, Representative. And we're hoping for great success moving forward. And I would suggest that the rep and I we do have a great working relationship. Feel so fortunate because of it, because it means we can work together to get things done, good things done. I would suggest that the representative and I, we measure our success by the success of the people we represent. So that being said and done, it's always a pleasure to be here in Westwood, where great things are happening, as we touched upon here. And again, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to go to the State House and to be able to be the voice of this community and the other areas of our districts that we represent, and see good examples here locally and on the state level where government is working in the very best interest of the people. So that's huge for us. I would suggest, since we have the camera, the best ideas that become law often mostly come from individuals who have a good idea. Why isn't this happening? Or maybe we don't need this. So you see the representative and I around the town of Westwood quite frequently. We love coming here when we're invited, and we look forward to future engagement. And if you have an idea, if there's something, please make sure you either grab us when we're here in town or give us a ring at our offices, and we'd love to have a cup of coffee with you. And really, that's what makes our job so enjoyable. And as the representative mentioned earlier, we are just honored and privileged to represent you in the legislature.
Absolutely.
Connor.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming onto the show today. You guys were wonderful guests, and thank you for making the first show as smooth as it can be. My name is Connor Lynch, and we'll see you next time for some more Town Talk.